And let's just go back to that crucifixion scene for a second. Being the third time I read it, it still didn't cease to surprise me. Now I know I just said from the first time I read it before, but I meant to say the third. And sorry, but the third time's the review time. So it's a really great scene that kind of foreshadows why what happens next. The only they only really touch upon it, in the movie, sort of a little bit, and I can't help but wonder if in the lost 3-hour cut, if there would have been more to it. The scene's a little longer in the book than in the movie. They slowly hint the knife in under his skin, through the hair on his chest, and slowly drag it across. They lash him from behind over and over. His body's pretty torn up, and it reminds me of Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ, kind of. The VC commander will sometimes sneak up behind Rambo, still, strung up, half in and out of it, and puncture holes into his back with a kind of hook knife, and it's pretty grueling. Anyway, just wanted to share that. So Rambo's still in the shower, and he takes his time because he knows what's coming, and he can see them prepping a place in the cell block to degrade him some more. Eventually, Teasel comes and forces him out of the shower, and to dry off, and Rambo's thought process remarks how his genitals feel exposed, and his testes try to kind of retreat into his stomach. So time starts to pass faster for him as he starts to descend back into war mode. And throughout throughout this whole scene, Rambo makes it really hard for them to cut his hair. They cut off a big clump on one side of his face, and he's constantly flinching. Even when he was drying off, he was doing it really slow, making it really, really hard for everyone involved. So, during his haircut, he gets his hair caught in the scissors. They're yanking out roots, and all the meanwhile, Rambo even refuses to get dressed. So they eventually call Shingleton down, and it's a massive version of Shingleton. Indeed, in this version, he's really, really big. So it comes down to help cut and shave him. He addresses his size to Rambo reasonably, and they move in on him to chop his maw. So Shingleton's shocked by Rambo's scars and asks Rambo where he got his scars. Rambo says in the war, giving Shingleton kind of leeway, but Shingleton just says, sure, in disbelief, and kind of jokes. So Rambo gets so mad that he almost kills him right there, on the spot, but holds back, and during so Teasel startles Rambo by sneaking up on him in a snip, and then takes a clip of his beard. There's a little physical scuffle because he kind of rips the hair out of Rambo's face, and so he gets his beard caught in the scissors, and eventually Gold grabs a straight razor and shaving cream and comes to approach him to shave him, and Rambo warns them one last time, don't come near me. But they, unwisely continue. Nobody listens to Rambo. So Rambo starts to trip back to Vietnam and the crucifixion scene. And the snap comes forward in full force, Instinct takes over and time begins to move fast again, and Rambo reaches out and grabs a straight razor from Galt. So everyone in the room goes into a fence. Galt fumbles continuously and pulls his gun on Rambo instinctively, and then bam! Rambo fucks Galt across the belly with that razor. Then slowly and awe-struckingly, Galt looks down as blood appears. Then his organs start popping out like an inner tube from a tire. It's pretty gross, and this brings our kill count to 3. So, like, the scene even involves him trying to poke his innards back into the hole, like from the wound, making weird noises, and, you know, weird wheezing noises and stuff, and, you know, they eventually fall out again, and you pretty much get the drift. So Rambo tries to slash Teasel and Shingleton, but they're like too far apart in the room. So he bolts up the steps, evading bullets, and steps out into the office area, knocking over the paint scaffold, therefore, you know, trying to trap the others downstairs, still in the holding cell area, like the basement. So when an officer comes around the corner, Rambo judo chops him across the nose and takes his gun and fires pretty much till he's out the door. And he leaps down the entrance steps into the street, freaking out an old lady, you know, because he's completely naked. You know, one side of his hair gone on his head, and the other side, half of his beard gone, you know, on the other side of his head. And he's still carrying the the gun and the straight razor, and lunges a motorcyclist off his bike, you know, like really brutally. And he takes off out of town, you know, shooting backward at Teasel, who stops Shingleton from shooting nearing passers-by. So then Teasel orders him to fall back into the station with him to check on Galt and Preston while he calls for help. So Ward on the road begins a spectacular chase sequence after Rambo on the bike. And meanwhile, back at the station, Teasel's gearing up for a lynching, you know. Acting on impulse, Shingleton's all shaken up by Preston, who lays nearly dead with blood coming out of his eyes. They call for medical help and the state police, informing them of the jailbreak. And he calls in Orville Kellerton, who's a master tracker. He's also from the movie. More brief in the movie, but he really has a good characterization to him in the novel. So all the time he's thinking of, like, Galt and Preston, and, you know, Shingleton's all messed up. So he tells him a story about his time in Korea and when he took the new job here. One of his friends who had a heart attack and died at the sight of a man in a pool of blood and urine from a knifing in a bar fight. Sorry. So anyway, Rambo's trying to escape, and everyone's kind of shooken up. You know, everyone in the police station is kind of shooken up. You know, and this is where instinct should have told them, do not pursue. You know, don't cross that line. But things are going to happen a lot faster now, and things are going to get out of control pretty fast. So Rambo's trying to escape the police on motocross, taking different roads, trying not to peel out on the wet cement, you know, dodging oncoming traffic. He almost hits a dairy truck, eventually going off-road and heading for the mountains, you know, jumping the bike on to a wagon road, etc., through the cornfields, to a cattle field, and he, you know, drives through them, around them, up a slope. You know, he's like, drives up right into them, like right in the middle of them, 3 abreast on each side, drives through them, gets into the mountains, he jumps a stream, then, you know, he loses the cops who have now, you know, stopped and can't continue on the path. So they exit their cars and they start shooting at him, and bullets are whizzing by his head, and, He leaps off the bike, crashing it into the rocks, and he scrambles up the slope into the tree branches that just start cutting into his naked body, you know. So the plan is to head to Mexico and stop the killing, you know. But he better not see that son of a bitch Teasel again.